home is one of the most important decisions you'll make in your entire life.
Call the Holly Ritchie team today for a free market analysis.
Welcome to Spanning the Need, Stories for Your Lifestyle. Today, I got a good friend of mine. I'm joined by Trumbull County Commissioner Mauro Cantalamessa. Thank you for joining me tonight, Mario.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you having me on.
It's been a long time.
It has. We go back a long ways, our families, and all the way to high school days, right?
Yeah, please don't age us. That is not the point of this show.
I had a lot more hair then.
I think I have less grays now, but I guess they're coming on because of a new baby.
Sure.
I appreciate everyone joining us tonight. We're going to talk about the state of the county, Trumbull County, just talking about what's going to happen future-wise, what's going on now, kind of how he started. So I think what everyone loves to know the question is like, how did you get into politics? Because as you know, politics has been an interesting field the last 5 years. So talk a little bit about how you got involved and why you got involved.
Yeah, I think from a young age, obviously growing up in an ethnically centered family and with a lot of core values and traditions. There were a lot of talks on religion, politics, all those things that families talk about. And it was just something that always, something I always found challenging because, number one, my father and I would have different conversations because he was of a different political ideology than me. So when we had talks, they were spirited, to say the least, around the
Italian spirited way.
Italian spirited way. Sometimes a little bit of yelling, sometimes some hand gestures or whatever. But we got through it. But I guess getting into politics and starting just that sense of community. Obviously, growing up with a family business and seeing people on a day-to-day basis, in the restaurant business, Enzo's Restaurant, shameless plug, but seeing people on a day-to-day basis and getting to know them, getting to know their families, having birthdays and graduations and weddings and getting to know different people and really being a part of the community in that way. I always felt like I was almost in public service because I was surrounded by the public, even as a young child coming home from school, running around the restaurant, getting in the way, and then working there as a young adult. And, there are a lot of similarities between the business world, especially a business where you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis and politics. And especially, the service is different, but it's still service nonetheless. So, getting into it that way and then becoming a precinct committeeman, making that commitment to be involved and starting very low and helping on national and statewide elections in my precinct and doing my part. And then just having, sort of a diverse background, I think, because on the one hand, I was a high school English teacher and a part of one of the most, I guess you'd say, largest and most powerful labor unions in the country, being a part of the teachers union. But on the other hand, being a small business owner and having to, make payroll and turn a profit and all those good things. So looking at the job, especially as a CEO of the county, one of the CEOs of the county is, looking at it from different perspectives. I think that's important. And I brought both of those perspectives, whether it be from the union side of it or from the management side of it. I tend to look at problems from both of those perspectives. So I think it gives me a unique advantage in that way.
It's funny you say that you were a teacher, from teacher to politician.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I guess there's been some, but I don't think it transitions quite like an attorney or anything like that. but nevertheless, there's been some. I think some of our greatest elected officials did start out in the public school systems and teaching. Maybe not as many as there were attorneys, but yeah, it definitely gives you a different perspective. When you're in the classroom and now with teaching, I mean, it's been years since I've been in the classroom, but I did then and I do now. I have an immense amount of respect for the profession because, number one, it's become even more challenging since I've been there, in my opinion.
I agree.
and teachers are having to be less creative and teach to the test more than being creative and trying to think of lessons that way. So I think the whole thing, small business, being in the classroom, being a precinct committeeman, all those things just sort of sparked, and I thought, well, I want to be involved. What's my skill set? And I thought, well, being a business owner, being in the classroom, I think I can handle the job as commissioner, and here I am.
Well, you hope everyone can handle whatever position they're
yeah. It can be challenging sometimes, that's for sure.
Well, it's interesting because I thought we turned out pretty well 20 some years ago, Howland grads. Just basically I had a great education at Howland, and I know you did too.
Well, I went to Kennedy.
Yeah. I was just throwing you with us.
That's okay. That's okay. I was around more Howland people than anything, so I guess
we all were. I was around more
proxy, I guess.
Well, you still lived with us. You still were. With us, but I still count you as that. But and I think you've had a long distinguished career over a variety of different occupations, and now we're kind of moving into a different phase of politics.
Mm-hmm.
The environment has changed rapidly, and you've been commissioner about 8 years. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Going on 8 years now, yeah.
And so the idea of politicians nowadays going longer than 4 or 5 years because of just the environment, because you're seeing a lot of resignations, retirements, just in from the school board all the way up to state and federal level. How does that change your thinking? Do you think the environment has changed? And if so, what do you think that's good, bad?
I think it's a mixed bag, I'd say, because I think in some ways, I would say that part of the change that we're seeing in politics at the local and the national level is sparked a lot by social media. Right, wrong, or indifferent, social media has changed the landscape of politics, and I think it's a wonderful tool in some regards, and I think it can be sometimes a dangerous tool where you can receive misinformation or something that's slanted or biased or anything like that. So I think I do agree that even since the year, I've seen the landscape change. I've seen there especially over the last 5 years, I think people have become much more involved and engaged, and I think that's a positive thing. We're seeing more people at our meetings than we did when I first started. So it's always beneficial to see, engagement and public participation in our business, because that's what we need. We need to hear from the public. So in some ways it's been positive, and in other ways I think that, I think that passion and that sense of whatever it is, a sense of community, whatever it is that comes out in people sometimes, whether it be on social media or whether it be on in a public forum like our meetings, is positive for the most part. But I think we need to learn to, all of us in these difficult times, because with COVID and what's going on nationally, and we see it every day and we're inundated with it, it's easy to lose our professionalism and our mutual respect for one another, whether it be from somebody from another party or somebody we don't agree with. We need to get back to those basic, professional sort of discussions, because if we're just yelling at each other, or if we're just going like this instead of coming together, we're losing sight of the greater good. So in my mind, I try to continue to, no matter who's on our board with us, I've always tried to find middle ground and find common ground and work towards goals that, maybe I don't agree with 100%, but maybe I agree with 50 or 75%, and on to the next issue. We need to keep it moving, and in our business, it becomes challenging because in some ways it's opportunistic, because you have board. There's a 3-member board. So you do have this like sort of marketplace of ideas, but it is kind of difficult when you're used to just making decisions and moving forward as an individual, because to work in a board-like setting, it can be challenging because it's not just your opinion. You're dealing with the consensus of the board. So finding that consensus can be challenging, and that's why some elected officials, some public servants, would rather be a mayor or rather be, a different executive position where you don't have to work within those board confines, and you can just, this is what I think, we're going to proceed with it. It's a little bit different in our arena because we have an old saying that one commissioner can't buy a pencil, but 2 can sell the courthouse. And I mean, that's an exaggeration, but that's true.
I've never heard of that, but that's an interesting montage when you talk about that, because no matter if they want to be a mayor, a city councilman, or even a president of council, or even a board commissioner of a county, you still have to work with people, no matter what political party. And you kind of have to agree to disagree nowadays. Sometimes, I mean, you've seen on TV from state and federal levels that just, you see these arguments that people like, okay, great, you're passionate about it, but then there's a line that you have to draw. I agree. Like, I agree with people's personal and professional opinion. Okay, great, no problem. Here's mine. Great. Okay, I disagree, but I'm okay. I can move on. That's just one of those things you look at.
Yeah, and I think because so much legislation and we vote on so much in our board setting, at least, you can get bogged down in like the last vote, and well, that didn't happen last time, so I'm not going to do this time. You got to put all that aside and move on to the next issue, and that's part of the challenge of this job, because it could be something you're very, very passionate about, and it could be something that you want to push through, that you think can help many, many people. But if it doesn't go your way, on to the next. Okay, we can agree to disagree, as you said, and maybe on the next one we will agree.
I know that from articles that I've read and just stuff that I've seen, that there's always a lot of fun board meetings for
they are
great debate, as I like to say. How do you like working with your colleagues? I know I've never worked with I've worked in committees, but you kind of work at that high level. I know you mentioned it earlier about working with 3 people compared to a mayor. How do you work with today's commissioners nowadays? Because as you know, Commissioner Fuda is going to be retiring. Best of luck to him. And you have a new person that just came on, Commissioner Frenchco, and she brings a variety of different things to the table. And everyone does when they're new and have great ideas, work with everyone. So how do you kind of, like, how do you work with all that? Like, what's your top priority when you guys look at that, and how your functionality works because of the county itself?
So great question. And I think there has to be a lot of mutual understanding and a lot of give and take. I mean, when you look at the dynamic of our board as it's constituted now, we have 3 very different individuals, and that's a good thing. And that's a positive thing, because we're all bringing different things from different viewpoints and different perspectives. So that's obviously a very good thing. You want that marketplace of ideas, as I mentioned before, but we just need to continue to be professional and respectful of one another. We need to continue to, as we said, have a short memory when it comes to certain legislation. And if it doesn't go our way, we move on to the next, and we try to find common ground, and try to just move it along. Because at the end of the day, if you're turning it into something personal, or if you're turning it into grudges, and it's very simple, it can be easy to do that, because tensions run high, and people are passionate, and we do have different beliefs on a lot of different things. So trying to find that common ground is really where we need to focus on, because we could be spinning our wheels here if not, because nothing will get accomplished. So even today, I was proud of the board, proud of both my board members, and we, all 3 of us, didn't see something eye to eye, but we came to a resolution, and some of us, came to some concession as to how we want to approach it, and we passed it, and it was meaningful. And, I was very proud of the board today.
Well, and that's, I think, at the end of the day, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel that, and I've negotiated contracts for years for a variety of different position procurement, and there's always common ground.
Yes.
There's always a win-win between both parties if you can come to a resolution and say, you know what, you got what you wanted, I got what I wanted, we negotiated. It's a win-win. Both of you come and leave with a win.
Yes.
One doesn't. You don't want to pounce the other person, because then they're not. It's just I've learned that you don't want to pounce a company. You want to work with them. Say, this is the reason why we want this, and this is how our operations work. So I get where you're going with that.
And I think that's what's, it's cliche to say, but communication. What you just said. If you're truthful and you come to a meeting and you say, this is why I think this piece of legislation is important, or this is why I think that this resolution needs to be this way, because of X, Y, and Z, because of A, B, and C. I mean, at the end of the day, I can respect that, because it's coming from here and it's coming from what you feel to be right. And I may not agree, but at least there's a rationale that we can follow, and we can, like you said, find common ground from that point. So, no, I agree wholeheartely. And it can become challenging because, again, different personalities, different perspectives, different ages, but
come on, don't age us.
We all have to keep in mind that we come into those meetings with the betterment of Trumbull County in mind. And if we continue to do that, I think we'll be fine.
And let's talk about that. And as you know, it's been a tough couple years for pretty much everyone. I mean, government, business. Talk a little bit about what you guys have been doing over the last, kind of a high level last couple of years during the pandemic, and what kind of projects you've been working on. Kind of elaborate what's been going on, because, some people don't get to your meetings.
Sure.
Some people don't have access to what you're doing. So talk a little bit about kind of what you guys did during the pandemic a little bit, and then what projects you're working with going at this time.
Yeah. So obviously we've been fortunate enough in Trumbull County, for the past 8 years that I've been here, we've never had a sales tax increase. We've always operated in the black, and that's something I promised to do from day one, and I've maintained that promise. And now we've had our share of challenges, no doubt, when it comes to revenue, and obviously the pandemic has hit not only us but small businesses and industry in general very, very difficult. It's been very difficult for a lot of those entities, and one of the first things we did. I'm sorry, my phone's going off. Can we edit that, Tony? Sorry.
No editing. This is what's called live.
Okay. All right. I lost my train of thought. But you asked about the CARES Act and some of the ARP funding. That's been critically important, not only for us in government to make sure that we're, some of the things we've done is we've put bipolar ionizers in every building so that our air quality is very safe, and the public can feel very confident coming into public buildings and knowing that. So things like that were covered with the CARES Act money. We also started a program that I've worked very closely with Valley Economic Development Partners. One of the first counties to do this was the Cares for Trumbull program. And that was what it started initially as $500,000 to small businesses for a grant program, turned into over $1 million program where we assisted small businesses because of the shutdowns, because of revenue loss, because of difficulty in hiring and all these different criteria. So we were able to assist over 80 small businesses. We're very proud of that during the pandemic, with grants anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per business. And we're going to reinstitute Cares for Trumbull too. And that's the legislation we just voted on today, because we were going back and forth as to how much we wanted to do, but we're going to change it a bit. We're going to still have the grant program, and they're going to be up to $10,000 grants for small businesses, but we're also going to do a revolving loan fund. I'm very proud of that because that's something that can regenerate over time and be there in perpetuity, really. I mean, so I think of the grant program as sort of this immediate help to these businesses that need immediate help, and God knows there's a lot of them out there, and we're going to try to address that with $2 million in grant funding, and then we're going to couple that with $1 million in the revolving loan fund that's going to start to replenish itself over the long term. So entrepreneurs in the future can use it long after the pandemic's gone, and anybody that wants to start a small business can get a low interest loan, and we're really proud of that. We're really proud of those two programs, and we're really proud to continue that. All told, we're going to be spending a little over $4 million in assistance to small businesses and assistance to companies. So it's something we're very proud of, and something we're going to be rolling out here very soon. And I don't think when we instituted the Cares for Trumbull in 2019, I think it took 2 weeks for that grant money to be used and to be claimed by small businesses. So we're looking for that to assist, especially the businesses that didn't get the first round of funding, so maybe they can get in on this second round of funding. That's been an important piece of legislation, an important program that I think our whole board is very proud of. Well, as far as you asked about some other projects with ARP and CARES Act funding, part of that, as I said, part of that money was to get back into the community and funnel it back into businesses. But also it is to take care of some of our aging infrastructure that we have, not only in Trumbull County, but all over the country, really. We are going to be doing more sanitary sewer projects. We're going to be doing more water projects. And as you know, those help from both an economic development standpoint and from a public health and safety standpoint. To this date, in my tenure here in Trumbull County, it's been unprecedented. We've done $80 million in sanitary sewer and water projects. That is unheard of. We had, and it's credited not to me, but to our sanitary engineers department. We had the largest water line in Trumbull County history, the Blueprint to Prosperity water line, something that the EPA and everybody else said that couldn't be done. Well, we got it done, and we got clean, potable drinking water to that northwestern portion of Trumbull County that so desperately needed it, and it opens up that corridor.
How long was the run?
The tie-in is going to be from all the way from West Farmington until Warren Township.
So you ran a water line. So basically, one line that could be tapped into any kind of, like basically one line right up the middle. Anyone that wants to tap, you can go right or left. It's already infrastructure is already there for businesses,
and then they can petition those other tie-in lines, and we can help them as far as grants and everything. We've tried to do that. We recognize that infrastructure, again, is not only important to quality of life, but to economic development as well. And then you couple that with something I've been passionate about, something our planning commission and myself has tried to spearhead over the years is broadband access and how important that is, and trying to get ahead with that. Now, Trumbull County was recently awarded through Eastgate Regional Council of Governments because we started the regional broadband initiative, basically. And we're going to be looking at a trunk line potentially with Ashtabula, Mahoning, sort of a lake to river trunk line that is going to be able to serve as sort of the foundation to sort of spreading this out. That's going to run down Route 11, and we're going to be using ARP money for that. So we realize now more than ever during this pandemic that as important as our water quality is, and every other utility that we use, but broadband has become just as important, because without that connectivity for schools and for work and for remote learning or remote, there was a time, who knows what's gonna come in the future, or hopefully, God willing, we don't have to go through this anymore, but we never know. And we want to have that infrastructure in place to keep people connected, to keep people working and keep kids in school, whether it be remotely. Hopefully it doesn't have to be that way, but so much of that is important to both, rural areas and low to moderate income areas. So we're looking at ways to offset the cost for that as well.
I think you also look at that. I think the pandemic has pushed county governments, city governments to work together now because the money just isn't there and is drying up quicker and quicker.
Yeah. One of the things, you're absolutely right, Tony. And one of the things that, we see in Trumbull County that's as you know, we got to look towards the future, and broadband is one of those things. But another issue that's pressing is all this development. It's a good problem to have, trust me, but all this development happening in that Lordstown area. We have obviously Voltage Valley and the battery plant and the power plants and everything else, and the potential for more coming out there. We need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place that's able to accommodate all that. So if that means building another treatment plant, if that means taking some of the flow from the city of Warren, because that's where the majority of the wastewater flow is going, and they're near capacity, we need to be thinking ahead, because the last thing we want to be is in a position to grow and we have to turn down development because we don't have the capacity or we don't have the infrastructure in place. So we need to make sure that we have that in place, especially in a targeted way, so that we know,
and I think that
that Lordstown's
right,
boom, and hopefully it's going to continue.
And I think you bring up a good point, because Lordstown is exploding now.
Yeah.
And because it's just that right there. Now, talk a little bit real quick, because I want to get to that Lordstown area. Talk about, just name maybe a handful of other projects that you guys have been working on right now that people may not know. And if they want to know, they may be able to reach out to the county to get more information.
So I think, I guess, an eclectic mix. One of the things that I'm very proud of is partnering with our Air Reserve Station, the Youngstown Warren Air Reserve Station, on the joint land use study. People don't realize that the Air Base is the number 2 now employer in the Mahoning Valley.
What's number 1?
Is it number 1 now? Okay.
No, I think it's 2, but I forget who number 1 is. Is it still the hospital?
I believe it's I believe the hospital. I'm not sure. I know that the Air Base is number 2, though. It's the second largest employer in the. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I get it. Let's just say give or take a couple spots.
Right. Nevertheless, it's important.
It's a great asset to the community. Great asset to the community.
Great asset to the community. We want to make sure that when that BRAC commission comes around and looks at the missions that we're accomplishing there, that number 1, we keep every mission that we have, the mosquito spraying and everything that we do out there, and the potential to add more missions and add more planes, and that is such a huge driver to our economic success, because we need to have all hands on deck in there. And that part of the study is looking at different ways that we can accommodate the growth that's happening in and around that the airport and the air base, because rightfully so, some of the townships that are near or adjacent to the air base have concerns. So what we did was we started the study. We brought the townships in, Vienna, Fowler, all these different townships. We sat down with them. We said, okay, what does the air base need? What can we do as a county? What can the townships do to assist? And we basically came up with this study that highlights all the needs, and we're addressing those needs one by one, collaboratively. So that's been important, and that's been an ongoing. Finally, the study's been completed, I believe, last year, and we're starting the implementation phase of that. So
is that study public, like on a website, or can someone access it?
If you look up, I'm sure you can. The best place to see it is the Trumbull County Planning Commission.
Okay.
Go to the Trumbull County Planning Commission's website, and I'm sure there'll be a link to it. The Joint Land Use Study, the Air Force Reserve Joint Land Use Study, or you know what? I'm sorry, it's the Trumbull County Joint Land Use Study. It would be under that.
Okay. So what do we look for the future? Like what kind of looks in that like 6 months, 12 months down the road that you guys are looking at? Because, nowadays you got to plan, at least county government's got to plan 6, 12, 2 years out for what projects they need because of budgets.
Sure. And with the influx of the ARP money, it's been a shot in the arm, no doubt, but that's a one-time shot in the arm.
Right.
So we need to.
How much did you guys get?
A total of nearly 40 million.
Okay.
So 38 million.
And it's once you use it, it's done.
Once you use it, it's done. And we just want to use it wisely. We've hired a law firm to make sure that what we're spending is within the guidelines, and we're not going to have any audit findings that we're going to have to pay back or anything like that. And we want to make sure that we're putting it back into the community, as we said, with the loan program and the grant program and the broadband and the sanitary sewer and water project. So, so that's where we're at with that. But you're right. We've one of the things I'm most proud about is we've held the line on the sales tax. There's only, last check, I think there's only 7 or 8 out of 88 counties that are at or lower than we are at our sales tax rate. So the proof is in the pudding. We run efficiently, we run effectively, and we do so at a lower cost to the taxpayer than just about anybody. And that's how we fund the majority of our general fund, is through the sales tax. And that accounts for the courts, the sheriff's department,
right.
All the
let me ask you
major.
Let me ask you this: the general fund that you get from tax.
Yes.
What departments does it support?
Yeah. So the general fund, everything from the auditor, the sheriff, the courts, the jail, all the courts, both common pleas, probate, all the 2 smaller courts out, one in Brookfield, one in Cortland, auditor, treasurer, recorder, clerk of courts, commissioners, HR, basically any department involved in the county that's not a separate agency, that's not Job and Family Services that gets state and federal funding, or the Mental Health and Recovery Board that gets state and federal funding. All the core departments of the county and all your core elected officials, those departments, whether it be auditor, recorder, even maintenance, all the maintenance that goes on in all these buildings, commissioners.
I should have asked which departments were not in it.
Yeah. Those are the bulk. The general fund is the majority of what we focus on as well. So, and what we're in charge of, and you're talking about over a $40 million budget. So, every year. So, it can be challenging, especially some years where local government funds have been cut. When I got elected in office, that we were down $7 million from the local government fund, the money that comes from the state that used to come that didn't anymore. So we had to make up for it and right size the county, and whether it be by attrition or otherwise, and we got through it, and we got through it without any tax increase, and that's something I plan to do in the future too.
And I think you look at it as this area has got hit hard over the last 30 years, 40 years of businesses shutting down, steel mills. Yeah. So it's like let me give you an example. It's like a city having a park system that supports 150,000, but your population is only 50 or 30. Sure. So you try to look at that type of scenario, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what's so hard for, I guess, those that aren't in the public sector, don't think of it this way, but even your safety forces, I mean, yes, the cities have shrunk and the population has declined, and we've had all these different, obviously transitions that have happened over the years, but that is I'm sorry, lost my train of thought, Tony. I got off topic.
It happens.
But yeah, so anyway, I lost it.
Yeah, hey, it happens. I get it.
Edit. So, we got to edit that.
Yeah.
And would you edit some hair on me?
Oh, come on. This is what we're talking about now. There's no editing. This is all real.
All right.
So So what should we look for future-wise for Trumbull County commissioners and the Trumbull County itself? What should we be looking forward to in the next 12 months?
Well, I think obviously the ARP funding is the big thing. That's what you're reading about in the news, and that's what people are asking about. It's not just we would love to give a $10 million grant program if we could, but there are other needs. We want to look at water and sewer projects. We want to look at broadband. We want to look at assisting our nonprofit organizations with new and existing programming. So there are that 38 million does seem like a lot, but when you talk about the needs in the community and what you can do to positively sort of put that money back into the community, it can go rather quickly. So I think two main things: spending the ARP funding wisely and getting it back into the community and getting our economy going. And keeping the sales tax low and keep working effectively and efficiently and provide services without any increases.
Okay, appreciate it. And I think you look at it, and I'll end it this way. I think you look at that money as how we can use it for long-term development, whatever money that we could build on future-wise.
Yes, whether we're talking about infrastructure projects or the revolving loan fund, those are things that will be there hopefully. So that other entrepreneurs and your daughter and my son can take advantage of those programs hopefully one day, and if they choose to, it'll be there for them.
My daughter's only 7 months. What are you trying to do?
She'll be 8 by the time you blink.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, Commissioner, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know we've been trying to catch up and get this going, but I appreciate the time. Thank you for
let's do it again.
Always do it. At the end of each show, I like to have some fun with my Yes. Okay. Well, we're gonna have some fun. So answer could be personal or professional, your call. It's whatever. These questions might be harder than the ones I asked. Best accomplishment.
My son.
Okay.
My son. I don't know if you call him an accomplishment. It's the best thing that's happened to me, though. So,
hey, there's nothing in my opinion. There's no right or wrong answers. It's all what you want it to be.
Yeah, he continues to, as I'm sure your daughter and she will continue to as well. He just continues to amaze me, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
Yeah, she's at the crawling army style right now.
There you go. And when even those little accomplishments, I could remember jumping and almost going through the roof on it, seeing those little, they're not little, but they're milestones nonetheless.
Right.
And yeah, no, it's fun.
Best memory.
Oh boy. I guess it would be memories. I would think.
It's fine.
Growing up and I was fortunate. Obviously growing up in a first generation Italian, both my parents were born in Italy. Being around my grandparents, being around my cousins, being around my aunts and uncles, being in all of them being in this area, and just that sense of family and community. Those were the best memories of my childhood. Just always going to my grandmother's house and getting into trouble with my cousins, I guess. I don't know.
I got fed spaghetti.
Yeah, that too. It was always good.
Yeah. Best experience.
I would have to say it's recent, and it's meeting my fiance. It's been a long road for both of us in some ways, and she has 2 wonderful children, and I have a son, and we're making it work, and I look forward to the future there.
Okay. Who's your role model?
Oh gosh, I know it sounds cliche. It's probably odd for or not odd. I don't even know if it's odd, but my mom, her perseverance. My dad's been gone. Unfortunately, now it's almost 20 years, and him starting and my mom starting the business together, and her persevering and continuing that legacy and growing it along with my brother and myself, I just couldn't be more proud of her. And every time I see her, she seems like she's getting more energy somehow. And to the point where it's sort of insulting because, people are asking me, how's your sister doing? And either she's looking that good or I'm looking that bad. One of the two. I don't know.
No comment. Tell her I said hi.
I will.
Wow.
I will.
Okay, last question. If there was one person you would want to meet, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, boy. That's a tough one, Tony.
Are these tougher than the questions I asked you earlier?
Yeah, these are tougher because these are there's no real bad answer, I guess. But if I had to choose one person, I guess, growing up, obviously, as I mentioned, in the family I grew up in, going to church every Sunday, and my Roman Catholic faith is very strong in me still. Going to John Carroll, going to Kennedy, and going to church every Sunday. I would have to say, I don't know how you can't say Jesus Christ, if as odd as that sounds, but yeah, that would be the one person, I guess.
Okay, there ain't nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a personal preference.
Yeah, and it sounds odd to say, but I guess if you could say anybody in history, I guess that would be the one person. Most fascinating, and I don't think any one individual or entity, whatever you want to call it, has changed the world quite like what happened with Catholicism.
Exactly. So, well, Commissioner, I appreciate you taking time.
Thank you, Tony. Anytime. Let's do it again.
Always a pleasure.
Always
Everyone,
a pleasure.
I appreciate you joining us tonight on another episode of Spanningtheneed. Commissioner, always a pleasure. Stay on. Everyone, have a great night. If you need more information on future podcasts, events, or stories, please go to anthonyvspano.com. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye now.